The young billionaire lay on the hospital bed, his skin pale like cold pap, his eyes sunk deep from many nights without sleep. Tubes ran in and out of his body, and the monitor beside him beat slowly. At the foot of his bed stood a slim nurse in a simple uniform, an orphan girl who had no family in the whole world. Everybody whispered that she was still a virgin, pure in body and in heart. That night, when the doctors had almost given up, the billionaire raised his weak hand and called only her into the room. The other nurses watched with wide eyes as the door closed behind her. Inside, the young man turned his tired face to the nurse, looked straight into her eyes, and told her he had one last wish before cancer carried him away, a wish that could change her whole life, or destroy it. Before we continue, please like and subscribe, and let us know where you're watching from. In the busy city of Yuzoka, the hospital never slept. Day and night, the halls were full of footsteps, crying relatives, and the sharp smell of medicine. Nurses moved up and down like ants, carrying files, pushing stretchers, and answering calls. Among them was a young nurse named Nkem. Nkem walked with quiet steps, holding a metal tray of medicine close to her chest. Her uniform was clean but old, washed so many times that the blue color had begun to fade. Her shoes were cracked at the sides, but she polished them every morning until they shone. Nkem had no mother to call her on the phone, no father to send her text messages, no uncle to ask if she had eaten. Both her parents had died in a bus accident when she was only 6 years old. After that, the church took her to a small orphanage at the edge of the town, where she grew up sharing clothes, books, and food with many other children who had lost everything too. At the orphanage, the old matron, Mama Rose, used to hold Nkem's small face in her wrinkled hands and say, "My child, when the world takes away your family, don't let it take away your heart. Guard it well. Guard your body too. You are precious, not cheap." Those words stayed with Nkem like a song that never left her mind. Even when she grew up and became a nurse, even when some men in the city whistled at her on the street or tried to touch her at parties, she remembered Mama Rose's voice. She had promised herself that she would wait for a husband who loved her whole person, not just her body. It was not pride. It was self-respect. It was her way of saying, "I may be an orphan, but I am not empty." That evening, the sun was going down behind the tall buildings when a strange tension entered the hospital. Nkem first felt it at the nurse's desk. Two nurses were whispering and leaning close to each other. One of them, Ngozi, had eyes that liked to shine when there was gossip. "Have you heard?" Ngozi whispered as Nkem dropped a patient's file on the table. "Heard what?" Nkem asked, signing her name in the duty book. "A big one has entered, oh," Ngozi said. "Ward E. The rich young billionaire. The one who owns half of the city. Chijioke Omenka." Nkem paused for a second. Everyone in Yuzoka knew that name. His face was on billboards, holding a phone or smiling in front of a new estate. People said he could buy a whole street in one day and not even feel it. They said his cars were like a moving wedding convoy, and his houses had more rooms than a small hotel. "What happened to him?" Nkem asked. Ngozi lowered her voice. "Cancer. Stage 4. They say he has been going abroad for treatment, but the thing refused to go. Now he has come home. Some are saying he came here to die." Nkem's heart squeezed a little. She had seen many people die in that hospital. Old grandmothers, new babies, men who drank too much, women who waited too long before coming, but the thought of a young man, rich and strong before, now lying helpless, touched her deeply. "God," she said quietly, "so death does not fear money." "You are now philosopher, ABI?" Ngozi teased. "A beg, leave that one. Me, I hear he is wicked. They say he chased poor people from their land to build one of his estates. Maybe this is God's punishment." Nkem did not like that kind of talk. She never liked to say a person deserved sickness. "We don't know his full story," she said softly. "Our work is to care for him, not to judge him." Ngozi rolled her eyes. "Nkem the saint. Nkem the virgin nurse," she said, half mocking, half admiring. "Anyway, better prepare yourself. They say he has asked for private nurses. Only the best and the most trustworthy." When Ngozi said that word, trustworthy, she raised her eyebrows in a way that made Nkem look away. In the hospital, everybody knew that Nkem did not join some of the other nurses in taking tips or flirting with rich patients. She kept to herself, did her work, and went home. Some people respected her for it. Others laughed behind her back. That night, the matron called a short meeting in the tiny office near Ward E. 3 nurses were chosen for the night shift in the Billionaire's room: Ngozi, a senior nurse named Ao, and Nkem. His condition is serious, the matron said, folding her arms. He is in pain. His family is rich, and they are watching everything. No shouting, no rudeness, no carelessness. You must be gentle. And please, no stories outside. What you see in that room stays there. Is that clear? Yes, Ma, they all answered. As they left the office, Ngozi whispered to Nkem, "You see? They chose you because you look innocent. Rich people like people who cannot talk too much." But Nkem was not thinking of that. She was thinking of something else. What it must feel like to know that your life is ending, even when you have everything money can buy. Did he feel afraid? Angry? Lonely? When she entered Ward E for the first time, she was surprised by how quiet it was. The room was large and cool, with white walls and soft lights. A big window showed the city outside, bright with car lights and street hawkers still selling groundnuts and roasted corn. But inside the room, everything felt slow and heavy, like time itself was walking on crutches. On the bed lay the young billionaire. He was thinner than his pictures on the billboards. His cheeks were hollow, and his hair had fallen out in some places. His lips were dry, and his chest rose and fell with effort. The machine beside him beeped softly, the sound steady but weak. On one side of the bed stood a man in a fine suit, his tie loosened a little, his face tight with worry, maybe a brother or a manager. On the other side sat a woman in a rich wrapper and lace blouse, holding a big designer handbag like she was afraid someone would steal it from her. Her eyes were red from crying and lack of sleep. Nkem greeted them, checked the drip, and took the billionaire's temperature. His skin was hot, but his fingers were cold. For a moment, his tired eyes opened and landed on her face. They looked at each other. There was something strange in his gaze, something like surprise and deep thought at the same time. It was as if he saw more than her uniform, more than her name tag. It made Nkem feel bare, like someone had just read a secret from her heart. "Rest, sir," she said gently, looking away. "We are here." Later that night, when visiting hours were over and the family had gone home to sleep or cry or argue in their big houses, the ward grew even more quiet. The other patients in Ward E were sleeping or groaning softly. The ceiling fans turned lazily. A radio from a distant ward played a slow gospel song, the words floating faintly through the hall. Nkem sat at the nurse's desk, writing in the report book. Ngozi was scrolling on her phone under the table, and Nurse Ao was making tea in the small corner kitchen. Suddenly, the intercom phone on the desk rang. Nkem picked it up. "Nurses Station, Ward E," she said. A low male voice answered, a bit breathless. "This is Mr. Omenka's personal assistant. The boss is asking for one nurse. He says he wants the quiet one with the calm eyes. The one called Nkem. He says he wants to speak to her. Alone." Ngozi's head snapped up. Ao stopped stirring her tea and turned. Nkem's heart began to pound fast. Why her? What did a dying billionaire want to say to an orphan nurse in the middle of the night? She wiped her palms on her uniform and stood up slowly. As she walked down the silent corridor toward his room, every step felt heavier. The light over his door flickered a little, casting long shadows on the floor. Her mind ran wild. What if he was in terrible pain? What if he wanted to shout at someone? What if he was about to die right there, with only her in the room? She reached for the doorknob with shaking fingers, pushed the door open, and stepped inside. The billionaire turned his head weakly, his eyes finding her even in the dim light. "Nurse Nkem," he whispered, struggling for breath. "I have one last wish before this sickness finishes me, and I need you alone to help me do it." He paused, staring at her with an intensity that made her throat dry. Then his lips parted, and he began to say the first shocking words of that last wish. For a moment, time stood still in the room. The soft beeping of the machine, the low hum of the air conditioner, the faraway sound of a trolley rolling in the corridor, all of it felt very far from Kem. She could only hear her own heartbeat in her ears. The young billionaire swallowed with difficulty, his throat dry. "Nurse, come closer," he whispered. Kem stepped nearer to the bed. His eyes were clearer now, as if the pain medicine had opened one last window of strength inside him. He looked at her the way someone looks at a road sign when they are lost in a strange town. "You are Kem, right?" he asked. "Yes, sir," she replied quietly. "You grew up in St. Mercy Orphanage." Her eyes widened. "Yes," she said, surprised. "How did you know?" A weak, sad smile touched his lips. "I have been watching you for some time," he said. "Not in a bad way. Years ago, I visited that orphanage. I gave them money. We took pictures. They told me about a small girl who always shared her food, who always defended the weak. They said her name was Nkem." "Nkem," the matron said, "means my own. But the world has not claimed her yet." He coughed, the sound harsh and painful. Nkem quickly adjusted his pillow and handed him a little water with a straw. He sipped slowly. "I did not know that girl would stand by my bed one day," he said, voice thin. "But when I saw you, I remembered." Nkem felt her throat tighten. She had been that girl, long ago, fighting for boys who were being bullied, sneaking extra bread to younger children. She had not known that anyone important had noticed her. Why am I here, sir?" she asked softly. "You asked for me." His eyes darkened with something like shame. "Because," he said, "I don't trust the people around me. They love my money, not my soul. You look like someone who cannot be bought." Those words made Nkem's stomach twist. Her mind went back to Mama Rose's warning. "Guard your heart. Guard your body. You are precious." She took a small breath. "What is your last wish, sir?" she asked. "If it is something I can do, I will try. But if it is wrong, I cannot." He let out a shaky laugh that turned into another cough. "You think I will ask you to do something dirty because you are poor?" he said. "Is that how low you think I am?" Nkem's cheeks grew hot. "No, sir. I don't know." He turned his head slowly to the window, where the city lights blinked like faraway stars. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "I thought money could fix everything," he said. "I took land from villages to build estates. I built tall houses, but broke many small homes. I paid lawyers to win cases I knew were not fair. When people cried, I told myself, that is how business works." His fingers gripped the bedsheet weakly. "Then the sickness came," he went on. "Cancer. At first, I said, my money will heal me. I flew abroad. I bought the best drugs. I stayed in white hospitals that smell like ice and glass. But the cancer did not fear my money. Each time the doctor shook his head, I kept hearing all the voices of people I had pushed aside." He turned his head back to her, eyes shining with tears that refused to fall. "Nkem," he whispered, "I don't want to die the same man. I want to undo what I can. I want to give back what I took. I want to help the kind of child you used to be. But if I put everything in the hands of my family, they will eat it all like hungry lions. They will buy more cars and leave the poor in the dust." He paused, breathing hard. Nkem waited. "That is why I need you," he said. "How?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. "There is a new will," he said. "I made it secretly when I realized I might not leave this hospital. In that will, I give most of my wealth to three things: a big free hospital in this city, a fund for poor cancer patients, and a home and school for orphans built on the same land I once took from a village. I also leave a special gift to St. Mercy Orphanage." Nkem stared at him, shocked. "All that money for people who cannot pay you back?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "It is late, but not too late," he said. "But there's a problem." Of course there was. "My older brothers and sisters don't know about this new will," he went on. "They think the old one is still the last. In that old one, they share almost everything. If I die before this new will is fully signed and sealed in front of the right people, they will fight to destroy it. They will say I was not in my right mind. They will hide it. They will call it fake. He stopped to catch his breath. Sweat had started to form on his forehead. Nkem gently dabbed it with a small towel. Her hands were steady now, but inside, her heart was racing. What do you want me to do? She asked. There is only one man my family still fears, the billionaire said slowly. An old chief, a retired judge, in my father's village. His name is Chief Nyameka. He is like a lion who has refused to grow weak. He hates injustice. If he sees me, if he hears my words with his own ears and watches me put my thumbprint on that will, nobody can break it later. Not my brothers, not my lawyers. But he does not trust my family. He says they are rotten. A small, sad smile passed over his face. So, I need a messenger. Someone with a clean name. Someone who is not on anybody's side. Someone who fears God more than money. He looked straight into her eyes. I want you to go to my father's village before tomorrow evening, he said. Go to Chief Nyameka with a letter I have already written. Bring him here, to this room. Make sure he arrives before my strength fails. I will finish the will in front of him. After that, whatever happens to my body, I will know my soul has at least tried to do right. Nkem felt the floor tilt under her feet. Me, she whispered. Go to your village? You have many workers. You have drivers. You have managers. Why me? Because you owe nobody, he said. If I send my workers, my brothers will buy them. If I send my lawyer, my sisters will threaten him. They will underestimate. They will think you are just a small nurse. But I have seen the way you walk. You walk like a person who carries something sacred. The words hit her like a drumbeat. Something sacred. But sir, she said, your family will not like this. They may think I am trying to steal from you. I am just a nurse. I am an orphan. I don't even have money for a big lawyer if they drag me to court. He closed his eyes for a moment, breathing with effort. I know I am asking you to step into fire, he said. I know it is dangerous. But I have also seen your courage. You speak gently, but you do not bend when you know what is right. This is not about me alone. If you help me, many poor people will live. Children who don't even know your name will study. Patients who cannot pay will get drugs. This is bigger than your fear and my shame. The room felt heavy now, filled with more than just air and light. It felt like the ancestors of many people were standing unseen in the corners, listening. Nkem thought of the orphanage, the cracked walls, the leaking roof in the boys' room, the way Mama Rose used to stretch one pot of soup to feed 20 children. She thought of all the poor patients who came to this hospital with nylon bags full of coins, begging for a chance to see a doctor. She also thought of herself, one small nurse, with no father, no mother, no one to stand beside her if the rich turned against her. Was she ready to step into a fight that was not hers? As if hearing her thoughts, the billionaire whispered, I will not leave you unprotected. In the new will, I put something small in your name too. Not because I want to buy you, but because a warrior needs a shield. If they call you a thief, you can stand with your head up. Everything will be written clear. But you must be strong. You must remember who you are. Nkem's chest rose and fell faster now. She could feel her heart wrestling. Fear on one side, duty on the other. What if I fail? She asked in a low voice. What if I go and cannot reach the chief? What if your family blocks me? Then you will know you tried, he answered, looking at her with tired honesty. And God, who sees the heart, will know too. But if you refuse because of fear, then my last chance to do good may die here on this bed with me. Silence fell between them. In that silence, Nkem heard Mama Rose's old words again. When the world takes away your family, don't let it take away your heart. She also heard a quieter voice inside, like a small bell. Some battles come looking for you because your name is already written in them. She looked up and met his eyes. Sir, she said, her voice trembling but clear, I am afraid. But I also know this is right. I will go. For the first time, a full smile touched his tired face. It made him look younger, like the rich boy from the billboards before sickness stole his strength. "Thank you," he whispered. "You have just given me back a piece of my soul." At that exact moment, the door of the room flew open. Two women and a man stepped in, dressed in expensive clothes, perfume filling the air before them. They were his older siblings. Their eyes went from the billionaire on the bed to Nkem standing close, her hand still on the side rail. The eldest sister's face hardened like stone. "So this is the pure nurse our brother asked for," she said slowly. And we arrived just in time to see her whispering secrets into his ears in the middle of the night. Her eyes narrowed, suspicious and sharp. "What are you planning with our brother's wealth, Nurse Nkem?" she asked, each word like a slap. "What exactly has he promised you?" Early the next morning, the sky over Yuzoka was still gray when Nkem stood in front of the matron's office, her hands cold and damp. The night had ended in a storm of angry words. The billionaire's elder sister had shouted. The elder brother had frowned like a judge in court. They had accused her of confusing their brother, of wanting to chop where she did not sow, of pretending to be holy while planning to steal. Nurse Ao had tried to speak for her. Ngozi had stayed quiet, eyes wide, enjoying the drama. The matron had finally stepped in and asked everyone to wait till morning. Now morning had come. Inside the office, the air smelled of paper and old perfume. The matron sat behind the small wooden desk, her glasses low on her nose. Beside her sat the billionaire's eldest brother and sister, both dressed like they were going to a meeting, not a hospital. Their faces were hard. Nkem stood alone on the other side of the table. The matron cleared her throat. "Nurse Nkem," she began, "these are serious accusations. They say you were alone in a private room with our patient, at his request, and that when they entered, you were whispering secrets. Please, tell us what happened." Nkem looked at the matron, then at the siblings, then down at her hands. "I was called by his assistant," she said quietly. "He said the patient wanted to speak to me alone. When I went in, Mr. Omenka told me about some wrong things he had done in the past and how he wanted to change before he dies. He asked me to help him reach someone important in his village. There was no bad thing between us. There was no talk of romance or private gifts." The eldest sister gave a sharp laugh. "Very sweet story," she said. "So our brother could not ask his own family, his own lawyers, his own managers to do this holy work? Only one orphan nurse from nowhere?" Her brother leaned forward. "What exactly did he ask you to do?" he asked. Nkem hesitated. The billionaire had told her his family might try to destroy the new will. If she revealed everything now, would she not be handing them the knife to cut it? The matron watched her face. "Answer," she said. Nkem took a breath. "He asked me to go to his father's village," she said slowly. "To call one old chief he trusts. To come and witness something important. Something important like changing his will." The elder sister shouted, slamming her palm on the table. "You see? I told you. She wants to help him share our family wealth to strangers." Nkem flinched at the noise, but did not drop her eyes. "I did not say anything about his will," she replied quietly. "You are the one saying it." The brother turned to the matron. "Madam," he said, "this is not acceptable. This hospital should not allow a small nurse to be dragging our brother into risky decisions behind our backs. From today, we want this girl removed from his care. She must not step into his room again." The matron looked tired. She rubbed her forehead slowly. "Nkem," she said, "you are one of my best nurses. Your record is clean. But this family is powerful. If anything goes wrong around this patient, the hospital's name will be in the mud. For now, I will have to remove you from Ward E. You will work in Ward B until further notice." The words felt like stones falling on Nkem's chest. "Yes, Ma," she said softly. The eldest sister smiled, satisfied. As they all stood up to leave, she leaned close to Nkem and whispered into her ear, her voice like ice. "Stay away from our brother," she said. "And if I hear you even tried to send any message to that village, I will make sure you regret the day you wore this uniform." She walked out, her gold earrings swinging. Nkem stood alone in the office for a moment, her eyes burning. Was that it? Was the journey over before it began? She went to the small hospital chapel during her short break. It was an almost empty room with a wooden cross on the wall and a dusty window that let in weak light. One cleaner was mopping in a corner. Nkem knelt at the front bench and covered her face with her hands. God, she whispered. What do I do now? I said yes to this man. I promised. But now his family is watching me like hawks. I am just one person. I don't have a car. I don't have big people to protect me. Maybe I spoke too fast. She remembered the billionaire's face, the way his eyes had lit up with hope when she said she would help. She remembered Mama Rosa's softness when she said, when you see someone drowning, you don't stand and argue about the color of the river. Her heart ached. As she stood up to leave, the cleaner in the corner, an old woman with a scarf tied on her head, called out, Nurse, you dropped something. Nkem turned. The woman was holding a folded paper envelope. No, Mama, that is not mine, Nkem said. The woman shook her head. It fell when you knelt down, she insisted. Maybe someone dropped it in your pocket? This life is full of surprises. Check it first before you throw it away. Nkem's heart jumped. She took the envelope with shaking fingers. On the front, in weak but clear handwriting, was her name. To Nurse Nkem. Inside was a short letter, written in the billionaire's hand. If you are reading this, it means my family has already started fighting you. I am sorry. I knew they would. I asked my assistant to put this in your pocket when he passed by you in the corridor. In this envelope, there is also a small bank card and the address of my father's village. Use the card to pay your transport and any urgent needs. It is not a bribe. It is a tool. If you still have courage, go. Don't wait for anyone to agree. They never will. Chijiok Omenka. A small ATM card and a folded slip of paper dropped into her hand. The cleaner watched her with knowing eyes. Sometimes, the woman said quietly, the road of good work is full of people shouting, don't go. But if you know your heart is clean, you go anyway. Nkem felt something firm rise in her chest. Fear was still there, but it was no longer the one holding the steering wheel. That evening, after her shift in Ward B, she went to her small one-room house. There was not much to pack, just a change of clothes, her small Bible, and a bottle of water. She wrapped them in a plastic bag and tied her headscarf. Outside, the street was noisy with children playing and the smell of frying akara. Nobody knew that one nurse was preparing to carry a secret mission on her small shoulders. At the bus park, men were shouting the names of towns and villages. Abodo, Abodo, last one, enter with your load.
Quo, quo.
Only 2 passengers remain. Oh, Omuoma. Father's village. We are moving. The name of the billionaire's village was among them. Nkem climbed into a crowded bus with torn seats and a cracked windscreen. Chickens in baskets complained loudly. A fat woman squeezed beside her, carrying a baby on her lap and a bag of Gary under her feet. The driver shouted at the conductor. The conductor shouted at the passengers, but somehow, the bus finally moved. As the city buildings gave way to red mud roads and tall trees, Nkem's mind went back and forth like a restless bird. What if someone from his family had sent people to follow her? What if they were already ahead, warning the chief not to see her? What if this whole thing ended with her being thrown out of the village like a thief? An old man sitting across from her studied her face. You look like someone going to fight and not sure she will come back, he said with a small smile. Nkem blinked, surprised. It is not a real fight, sir, she said. Every journey of truth is a fight, the old man replied. But remember, money is only a visitor in our lives. It comes, it goes. The way we treat people is what stays and calls our name after we are gone. His words sank into her heart like rain into dry ground. Thank you, sir, she said quietly. By the time the bus reached the signboard of the billionaire's village, the sky was already turning orange. Palm trees lined the road. Children ran barefoot, chasing each other. Old women sat by the roadside, selling roasted plantain and palm oil. Nkem climbed down, her legs stiff. Please, sir, she asked the old man as he stepped down, do you know where Chief Niameka's compound is? The man chuckled. Everybody knows that lion's house, he said. Follow this road straight, turn left at the big udala tree, then go down till you see a compound with a high red gate and carved wooden pillars. That is the chief. But prepare yourself. His tongue is sharp. He does not like rubbish." Nkem thanked him and began to walk. With each step, her heart beat faster. She wrapped her bag tighter under her arm, feeling the envelope inside, as if it was a living thing. At last she saw it. The big udala tree, full of green fruit. Then the turn. Then a compound with a high red gate and wooden pillars carved with images of masks and animals. But something else made her stop. In front of the red gate, shining under the falling sun, were 3 big black cars, all with city number plates she recognized. She moved closer and saw it clearly. On the front of one of the cars, hanging like a proud badge, was the familiar mark of the Omenka family company. The billionaire siblings had reached the chief's house before her. And from inside the compound came the sound of loud, angry voices, one of them saying her name. For a moment, Nkem stood outside the red gate like a small tree in front of a storm. Voices floated over the wall. Angry, sharp voices. She heard the name Chijiok. She heard the word will. And then, like a slap, she heard her own name. That nurse, Nkem, she wants to carry our family matter on her head. Imagine! Her heart jumped into her throat. For a few seconds, she thought of turning back. She could go to the bus park, find another bus, return to the city, pretend this journey never happened. She could tell herself she had tried. But then she remembered the billionaire's face, thin and tired, his eyes full of pleading. If you refuse because of fear, then my last chance to do good may die here on this bed with me. She placed her palm on the rough red gate and whispered, God, give me a lion's heart inside this small body. Then she pushed the gate open and stepped into the compound. The compound was wide, with a large open yard. A big mango tree stood in the middle, giving shade. Chickens scratched in the sand. At the far end was a long house with a high veranda. Carved wooden pillars held up the roof, and on the wall hung old masks and hunting trophies. On the veranda, sitting in a carved wooden chair like a king on a throne, was Chief Nyameka. He was an old man with white hair and a white beard, his skin wrinkled but full of life. He wore a simple white wrapper and a red cap. In his right hand, he held a walking stick carved with the head of a lion. Standing in front of him were the billionaire's elder brother and sister, dressed in neat city clothes, anger shining in their eyes. A few village men sat on low stools nearby, watching. As Nkem entered, all heads turned. There she is, the elder sister cried, pointing as if she had seen a snake. That is the nurse I told you about, Chief. The one trying to lead our dying brother, like a goat, to the slaughter. The chief's sharp eyes studied Nkem from head to toe. Come closer, he said, his voice deep and calm. Nkem walked forward slowly until she stood at the foot of the veranda. The old chief's gaze was heavy, but not cruel. The brother and sister glared at her. You are Nkem, the chief asked. Yes, sir, she replied, keeping her eyes low out of respect. You are from where? I grew up in St. Mercy Orphanage in Yuzoka, sir. I work as a nurse in the city hospital. The elder sister snorted. An orphan from nowhere wants to teach us how to share our own father's property, she said. The chief banged his walking stick once on the floor. Let her talk, he said. You two have been talking since morning. My ears are tired. He turned back to Nkem. I have known the Omenka family since before your parents were even thinking of you, he said. Their father was my friend. Their quarrels are not new to me. But this matter is strange. Why would a rich young man send for a nurse he hardly knows, and not his own blood relatives? Speak truth. This land does not like lies. Nkem felt all eyes pressing on her. She took a breath and spoke, her voice steady but soft. Sir, I met Mr. Chijiok as his nurse, she said. He told me he has done wrong things in the past. He took land from people to build estates. He pushed poor families away. But now, sickness has humbled him. He wants to use his wealth to repair some of the harm. He wants to build a free hospital, help cancer patients who cannot pay, and build a home and school for orphans. He said if his family handles everything alone, the poor will only see dust. He said you are the only elder they still fear and respect. That is why he sent me. She lifted her eyes then and met the chief's gaze. He asked me to bring you to witness his last will, she finished, so that his words will not die when his breath dies. The yard was quiet. For a second, the chief's eyes softened. Then the billionaire's brother stepped forward, shaking with anger. Chief, don't let this girl confuse you, he said. Our brother is weak. His mind is not clear. This nurse is using stories to make him change the will in her favor. We have proof. He pulled something from his pocket, a small plastic bank card and a folded slip of paper. Kem's heart sank. How did they? We have people everywhere, the sister said coldly, reading her face. We saw her at the ATM. We followed. We know he gave her money. Look. She waved the card. She calls it transport, the sister went on. But tomorrow it will become a car, a house, land, while we, his blood, stand and watch. Is that justice, Chief? Some of the village men murmured. The story was entering their ears like palm wine, sweet and confusing. The chief looked at the card, then at Nkem. Is it true? He asked. Did he give you money? Yes, sir, she said, her voice small. He gave me a card to pay for transport. He wrote that it is not a bribe, only a tool. I have not used it for anything else, sir. If you want, I can cut it into pieces now. The elder sister laughed harshly. Hear this girl, she said. So innocent with her mouth. So dangerous with her actions. The chief stayed silent for a moment, thinking. When he finally spoke, his voice was tired. I have lived long enough to know that when a rich man is dying, many hands appear to collect, he said. Some hands are clean, some are dirty, but all of them are hands. This matter is heavy. He turned to the brother and sister. You two are proud and greedy, he said bluntly, but you are still his blood. I cannot throw you away like used paper. If your brother truly wanted me, why did he not call me long ago? Why now, when one leg is already inside the grave? He turned back to Nkem. You, young nurse, your eyes are clear. I believe you are not a thief. But you are also not part of this family. If I follow you now and leave my peace, these people will say I helped you cheat them. Tomorrow, when I am dead, they will spit on my name. His words landed like stones. So, Chief, you will not come? Nkem asked quietly. He shook his head slowly. I am old, he said. I have fought many battles. This one is not my own. Let lawyers and court settle it. Go back to your hospital. Do your work. Care for your patients. Leave this matter. The finality in his voice cut through Nkem like a knife. The billionaire's siblings smiled, their shoulders relaxing. You have heard the elder, the brother said, looking at her as if she were dust. Carry your bag and go. And if you dare to disturb our brother again with these ideas, we will show you that money is older than you. Nkem's throat burned. For a moment, she thought she would shout or cry or fall. Instead, she bowed to the chief. Thank you, sir, she said in a shaking voice. Then she turned and walked out of the compound, the red gate closing behind her with a heavy sound. Outside, she made it only as far as the big udala tree before her legs gave way. She sank to the ground, hugged her bag to her chest, and let the tears fall. Birds sang above her, not caring. Children laughed in the distance. Life was moving on as if her heart was not breaking. So that's it, she whispered to herself. I left my ward, risked my job, came all this way, and for what? To be insulted, to fail. Her phone buzzed weakly in her pocket. She wiped her eyes and answered. Hello. It was Nurse Seo. Her voice was tight and worried. Nkem, where are you? She asked. I know they removed you from Ward E, but I also know you. You are not the kind to sit and fold your hands. Please tell me you are safe. I'm in his village, Nkem said, her voice breaking. I reached the chief, but his family came before me. They poisoned his mind. He refused to come. I failed. There was a pause, then Ao spoke again, softer. My dear, listen, she said. Our patient, he is weaker today. He keeps asking, has she gone? Has she reached them? I couldn't tell him the whole truth. I just said you were trying. But his time it is running like water from a broken pot. If something must be done, it must be done quickly. After the call ended, Nkem sat quietly under the tree. Her tears dried on her cheeks. Her heart felt like a cloth someone had twisted hard. She could go back now and say, I tried. Nobody would blame her. Even God might understand. But then another thought came, clear and sharp. If I stop here, I am not failing alone. I am failing all the people this man wanted to help. The sick who will never get drugs. The orphans who will never see school. The villages that will never get their land turned into healing places. She looked back at the red gate in the distance. Inside that compound was one stubborn old lion and two hungry younger ones. They had money, power, and loud voices. All she had was truth and a tired body. But sometimes, in stories Mama Rose used to tell, it was the small goat that found a way past the big fence. Slowly, Nkem stood up. If she could not reach the chief in his sitting room, maybe she could reach him another way. Chiefs did not only fear money, they feared their name in the mouth of the people. If the truth was spoken where all could hear, could he still hide behind peace? Her heart beat the loudest drum she had ever heard as a daring idea formed in her mind. She walked back toward the compound, but this time she did not knock on the gate. She climbed onto a low stone beside the udala tree, lifted her head, and raised her voice loud enough for the whole street to hear. People of this village, come and hear what your son in the city is trying to do with his last breath. Come and hear how sickness has made a rich man remember the poor he once forgot. Doors began to open. Women with wrappers tied high on their chests stepped out. Young men leaned on motorcycles. Children ran closer, curious. Heads turned toward the red gate of Chief Nyameka's compound. As more faces gathered, Nkem's voice shook. But she did not stop. Inside the compound, the chief's walking stick tapped slowly on the floor as he stood up. The billionaire's siblings turned toward the gate, anger burning in their eyes. Outside, Nkem took a deep breath, ready to pour out everything she knew, not just to one man, but to a whole village. And just as she opened her mouth to speak the first full sentence of the billionaire's secret last wish to the crowd, the red gate began to swing open, and the tall shadow of Chief Nyameka fell across the ground at her feet. Chief Nyameka stepped out of the compound, his red cap bright in the late afternoon light. His walking stick tapped the ground as he came toward the udala tree where Nkem stood. The crowd that had gathered went quiet, like someone had pressed a pause button. Only the birds in the branches still dared to sing. The chief looked up at Nkem on the stone, then at the faces around, women with babies on their backs, old men with walking sticks, boys with dusty feet, girls holding plates of cassava leaves. Who called my people here? He asked, his voice slow but strong. Nkem's heart beat so hard she thought it might burst out of her chest. This was the moment. She could climb down, say sorry and run away, or she could open her mouth and carry the truth like a calabash on her head. I did, sir, she said, her voice shaking but loud enough. I am the nurse your son in the city sent to you. The billionaire's elder sister rushed out behind the chief. Chief, don't listen to this girl, she shouted. She's trying to disgrace our family in the street. The chief raised his walking stick, and silence dropped again. Let her talk, he said. Since everybody has been whispering in corners, let us hear it in the open. Truth does not fear the sun. He turned back to Nkem. Speak, he said. Nkem looked at all the faces, watching her. Fear tried to pull her back, but something deeper pushed her forward. The memory of a thin young man fighting to breathe and still thinking of others. She took a breath. People of this village, she said, I am Nurse Nkem from Uzoka. I grew up as an orphan. I have nothing to gain by lying to you. I came because your son, Chijioka Menka, is dying in my hospital. Murmurs went through the crowd. They all knew his name. Some had heard of his riches. Some had also felt his greed. He told me, Nkem went on, that when he was healthy, he used his money like fire, burning people's land, pushing poor families away, building estates where mud houses used to stand. Maybe some of you here lost land because of him. An old man in the crowd lifted his hand. My brother's farm, he said. They turned it into a shopping plaza. He died from the pain. A woman snapped her fingers in agreement. They chased my sister's family too, she added. Till today, she is still renting one small room in the city. The elder sister shifted uncomfortably, but she said nothing. Nkem lifted her voice again. Now sickness has humbled him, she said. Cancer is eating his body. He told me, I don't want to die the same man who hurt so many. I want to use my last breath to repair what I can. So he made a new will. In that will, he leaves most of his wealth to build a big free hospital in our city, a fund to help cancer patients who cannot pay, and a home and school for orphans. He also plans to return land in this village and turn it into a place of healing and learning. The murmurs grew louder now, this time with surprise. She pointed lightly toward the big compound behind the chief. But he is afraid, she continued. Afraid that when he dies, his brothers and sisters will share everything among themselves and forget the poor. He said, they love my money, not my soul. He told me there is only one elder they still fear, Chief Nyameka. He sent me to beg our chief to come and witness his last will, so nobody can break it later. She stepped down from the stone and faced the old man fully. Chief, she said softly, I know I am small. I know I am not from your blood. But I saw this man's eyes when he spoke. I saw a rich man who is ready to kneel before the poor. I saw a dying man begging for one last chance to do good. If you refuse, his last wish may die with him. The yard was now full. Even people from other streets had come, standing on tiptoe, listening. The billionaire's brother walked forward, angry veins standing out on his neck. People, he shouted, don't let her deceive you. Our brother is sick in the head. This nurse is using sweet words so he will dash money to strangers. Look, he already gave her a bank card. He raised the card high.
Some people gasped.
Others frowned. Nkem did not try to hide. Yes, she said calmly, he gave me a card for transport. If you think that means I am a thief, chief, you can take it. I don't need it to speak truth. If I wanted his money, I would not stand in the open and call all of you to judge me. She lifted her hands, empty. Search my bag. Search my pockets. I am not hiding anything. The chief looked from her open hands to his people's faces. He saw anger there. Old anger from land lost and promises broken. But he also saw something else. Hope. Hope that maybe, this time, a rich man would not carry everything into his grave. He lifted his walking stick and tapped it 3 times on the ground. The crowd quieted. I am an old man, he said slowly. I have made mistakes too. There are young people in this village who think I hold too tight to my pride. But I know one thing. A person who wants to change for good before death should not be stopped. He looked at the billionaire's siblings. You too, he said, have lived in big houses so long you no longer hear the cry of small people. Your brother has called me. I refused before, thinking this was just another family fight over money. Now I see it is bigger than that. If he truly wants to build for the poor, I will not stand aside. He turned to Nkem. You have courage, child, he said. Courage to speak when it is easier to keep quiet. That kind of courage is rare. For your sake, and for the sake of the poor, I will go to the city with you. The crowd broke into a buzz. The elder sister stepped forward, furious. Chief, you cannot. I can, he cut in sharply. And I will. We will not go in secret. I will take 2 elders and 1 youth leader as witnesses. If your brother is truly in his right mind, his words will stand. If he is not, I will say it with my own mouth. You want to drag this matter to court?
Drag it.
But my name will stand with justice. The brother's shoulders sagged. The sister looked like she had swallowed pepper. Before they could argue more, the chief called for his old pickup truck. He climbed in with surprising strength for his age. 2 village elders and a young man with bright eyes joined him. Nkem was pulled up into the back seat. The elder sister and brother rushed to their cars, not wanting to be left behind. As the small convoy left the village, dust rose behind them like a moving cloud. In the truck, Chief Nyameka sat beside Nkem. "You are shaking," he said quietly. "Yes, sir," she answered honestly. "I am afraid." He nodded. "Fear is normal," he said. "It is what you do while you are afraid that shows your real size." They rode in silence after that, the road stretching long and red before them. By the time they reached the city hospital, the sky was turning purple. Nurses moved faster now. The night shift was preparing. The air was thick with worry. Inside Ward E, the billionaire lay smaller than before. His breathing was shallow. Nurse Ao stood by his bed, eyes shining with unshed tears. The matron was at the door, arguing with the elder sister. "You cannot turn this ward into village square," the sister snapped as Chief Nyameka and the elders entered. "Our brother needs rest." The chief did not even look at her. He went straight to the bed. "Chijioke," he said, his deep voice softer now. "It is Nyameka, your father's friend. I have come." The billionaire's eyelids trembled. Slowly, he opened them. When he saw the chief's red cap, a weak smile touched his pale lips. "You came," he whispered. "So, she did it." He turned his head slightly toward Nkem, who stood at the foot of the bed, hands pressed together. "You kept your word," he said to her. "You fulfilled the journey I put on your shoulders." Tears filled Nkem's eyes, but she smiled. "We are not done yet, sir," she said softly. "We still have work." The hospital lawyer was called. The new will, already written, was brought out and placed on a small table beside the bed. A video camera from the hospital's admin office was set up to record everything. Chief Nyameka sat close, the elders behind him. The billionaire's siblings stood at the side, tight-lipped. The matron and Nurse Ao stayed too. They had been part of this story from the start. "Chijioke Menka," the chief said loudly so the camera and everyone could hear. "Do you know who I am?" "Yes," the billionaire whispered. "You are Chief Nyameka, my father's friend, and the man whose name nobody in my family plays with." "Do you know where you are?" the chief asked. "In Yuzoka Central Hospital," he replied, each breath a small fight. "In Ward E. Do you know what is happening to you?" "Yes," he said. "I am dying. Cancer. The doctors have done what they can. The rest is in God's hands." The chief nodded. "Do you still stand by this new will?" he asked. "Is this what you truly want?" With clear mind, the billionaire's voice grew firmer for a moment. "Yes," he said. "I want most of my wealth to build a free hospital, a cancer fund, and a home and school for orphans. I want land in my father's village used for the good of the people, not only for rent. I want my family to have something too, but they must not eat everything. I want Nurse Nkem to receive a portion, small compared to all this, to help her continue helping others. This is my wish, not forced by anyone." The siblings opened their mouths to argue, but the chief raised his hand. "Enough," he said. "We have heard." The lawyer guided the billionaire's hand to the papers. His fingers were weak, shaking, but with effort he pressed his thumb on the ink pad, then onto the document. 1, 2, 3 times, on each important page. Chief Nyameka, the elders, the youth leader, the matron, and the hospital lawyer all signed as witnesses. The camera captured everything. When it was done, the billionaire sank back, sweat on his forehead. His eyes closed for a moment, as if he had just climbed a high mountain. "It is finished," he whispered. The chief leaned toward him. "Your father was not a perfect man," he said, "but he had a heart for his people. Today you have washed your name with his. Rest. The poor will speak well of you after you are gone." The billionaire's siblings stood stiff. They knew that fighting this will now would mean standing against their own brother's clear words, the chief, the village, the hospital, and even the camera's eye. Their greed had met a wall stronger than money, community, and truth. Slowly they stepped back. The room grew quieter. Later that night, most people left the ward. Only Nkem and Nurse Ao stayed with the billionaire, changing his drip, wiping his forehead, checking his breathing. At one point, he opened his eyes again and looked at Nkem. "You know," he said weakly, "when I first heard you were pure, I thought it was about your body only.
But now I see.
It is your heart that is clean. You refuse to be bought, even by fear. Nkem shook her head, tears slipping down. I was afraid many times, she whispered. I almost ran away.
But God helped me.
And some people believed me when they did not have to. He smiled faintly. Use what I left for you well, he said. Don't become like me, building while breaking. Build without breaking.
I will try, she said.
He reached out his hand. She took it gently, feeling how light it had become.
Thank you, he said.
You fulfilled my last wish. Those were the last clear words he spoke. As the night deepened, his breathing slowed further. The machine beside him beeped in softer, longer spaces. The city outside quieted. Somewhere in another ward, someone sang a low hymn. Nkem sat by his bed, humming one of the songs Mama Rose used to sing in the orphanage. When the road is hard and long, hold the hand of what is right. The words wrapped around the room like a soft cloth. Just before dawn, a pale light began to touch the hospital windows. The billionaire's chest rose gently, then did not rise again. The monitor gave one long, straight sound. Nurse Ao checked his pulse, her face solemn. She looked at Nkem and shook her head. He is gone, she said quietly. Tears rolled down Nkem's cheeks as she covered his body with a clean white sheet, leaving only his face. She whispered a small prayer for him, a man who had done much wrong, but who had not wasted his last chance to do right. Weeks passed, then months. Work began on the new free hospital, the Chijioke Omenka Memorial Health Center. People who once cursed his name now told their children, he paid us back in the end. The cancer fund started helping patients buy drugs they could never afford before. The orphanage's roof was repaired, new beds were bought, and a small school was built on land the company had returned. Nkem used her own small share of the inheritance to do something simple but powerful. She rented a building close to the big hospital and turned it into a rest house for poor relatives who came from far villages to care for sick family members. There, they could sleep on real beds, eat simple food, and bathe without begging. People started calling her Nurse Nkem the Brave, but she did not feel like a hero. She still wore the same simple uniform, still walked the same quiet way along the hospital corridors, still polished her cracked shoes every morning. Sometimes, at night in the ward, when a poor patient cried because they had no money, she would remember the young billionaire on his bed, asking for one last chance. And she would think, this is why courage matters. Not for her own name, but for the many faces we don't even know. In her old orphanage, when children complained that they were small and powerless, Mama Rose would now tell them the story of the orphan nurse who stood up to rich people and village chiefs and carried a dying man's last wish like a sacred pot. The world will try to buy your tongue and your silence, Mama Rose would say. But remember Nkem. She was not born with a big name. She had no father, no mother, no land. Her only real wealth was courage and a clean heart. And with those two things, she changed the lives of thousands she may never meet. The moral of the story spread from mouth to mouth, house to house, town to town. In this life, it is not money, big family, or a loud voice that makes a person great. It is the courage to speak for what is right, even when you are afraid, and the willingness to use your last chance to do good, before the drum of your life beats for the last time.